Few individuals better embody the phrase, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, than Japanese engineer Tsutomu Yamaguchi, the first person officially recognized for surviving not one, but 2 atomic bombings. Before we begin, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more unbelievable true stories that deserve to be remembered. It was the morning of August 6, 1945, just weeks before the end of World War II. Yamaguchi had just completed a 3-month work assignment in Hiroshima, where he had been designing oil tankers for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. He was preparing to board a train to return home to Nagasaki to reunite with his wife and newborn child, when he realized he had forgotten his hanko, a traditional Japanese personal seal used as a signature. After retrieving it and making his way back, he noticed a strange noise in the sky. Looking up, he saw a B-29 American bomber flying overhead. From it dropped a small object suspended by 2 parachutes. As Yamaguchi watched in confusion, an intense white light, resembling a burst of magnesium, lit up the sky. He had only seconds to throw himself into a ditch before the shockwave hit and everything around him plunged into chaos. When he came to, the morning was still shrouded in an eerie darkness. The explosion had sent soot and debris so high into the atmosphere that the sunlight was barely visible. His eardrums had ruptured, and severe burns covered his face and arms. Though he had been less than 2 miles from the blast's epicenter, he had somehow survived. Thousands of others were not as fortunate. Around 30% of Hiroshima's population perished instantly, and tens of thousands more died in the weeks and months that followed. In an interview years later, Yamaguchi recounted what he saw. "I witnessed a massive pillar of flame shaped like a mushroom rising into the sky. It looked like a tornado, but it didn't move. It expanded outward at the top. There were dazzling lights shifting in a complex rhythm, like patterns inside a kaleidoscope. My first instinct was to check if I still had legs and could move them. I thought, if I stay here, I'll die." Despite his injuries, Yamaguchi made his way, disoriented and in shock, back to the shipyard where he worked. There, he discovered that 2 of his colleagues, Akira Iwanaga and Kuniyoshi Sato, had also made it through. With nowhere else to go, the 3 men spent the day and night in an air raid shelter. The next morning, they journeyed to a nearby train station that was somehow still in operation. What they witnessed on their way was horrifying. Streets lined with corpses, and at one point a collapsed bridge that forced them to wade through a river clogged with bodies. Eventually, they managed to board a train crowded with other scorched and traumatized survivors, all heading to their homes, or what was left of them, in Nagasaki. Meanwhile, President Truman addressed the American public, proudly claiming responsibility for the atomic strike and issuing a warning to Japan. "If they do not accept our terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the likes of which has never been seen on this earth. Following this air attack, sea and land forces will strike with numbers and strength beyond anything they have yet witnessed, and with combat ability they already know well." With these words echoing in his mind, Yamaguchi feared that Nagasaki might also be targeted. Still, despite his severe injuries and the trauma of the past 2 days, he returned to work on August 9th. His dedication was met with disbelief. His superior, seeing him covered in bandages, scolded him for abandoning his coworkers and insisted that no single bomb could have destroyed an entire city, accusing Yamaguchi of hallucinating. And then, mid-argument, the impossible happened again. A second blinding white flash lit up the office. For the second time in 3 days, Tsutomu Yamaguchi experienced the devastation of an atomic bomb firsthand. At 11:02 a.m. on August 9th, the atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki, killing another 70,000 people. For a brief moment, Yamaguchi feared the Hiroshima bomb's cloud had somehow followed him. Furious and in pain, he ignored his supervisor's desperate cries for help, climbing through a shattered window and running through the debris-filled streets to find his wife and child. Miraculously, they had survived, sustaining only minor injuries. Yamaguchi collapsed upon arriving home and spent the following week oscillating between life and death, his wounds raw and his fever raging. The local hospital had been obliterated. Medical care was non-existent. A week later, he regained consciousness to the sound of celebration. On August 15, 1945, Japan announced its surrender. To this day, the ethics and necessity of the atomic bombings remain subjects of fierce debate. Did Japan's willingness to surrender justify the loss of so many lives? Or were the bombings acts of unnecessary brutality, potentially even war crimes? A lesser-known fact is that America had multiple atomic bombs prepared, awaiting only Truman's approval to continue the campaign. Had those been used, it would be even harder to justify the argument that civilian casualties were an unfortunate but essential aspect of ending the war. Public perception of America's role might have been drastically different. The long-term consequences of radiation exposure continue to affect the children and grandchildren of survivors. Yamaguchi's own son tragically died of cancer at 59, a direct result of the radiation he was exposed to as an infant. Many others suffered similar fates. Though Yamaguchi outlived his son and most other survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the toll on his health was immense. He lost hearing in his left ear and spent much of his life wrapped in bandages. His wife sadly passed away at the age of 88 due to complications from radiation-induced kidney and liver failure. As the years went by, Yamaguchi himself developed cataracts and was later diagnosed with acute leukemia, conditions likely linked to radiation exposure. Despite the physical toll and decades of suffering, he remarkably lived until the age of 93, ultimately passing away in 2010 from stomach cancer. In Japan, those who survived the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were referred to as hibakusha, a term used to denote victims of the atomic bomb. These individuals were eligible for government assistance, including financial support and free health care. For much of his life, Yamaguchi was officially recognized only as a survivor of the Nagasaki bombing, a designation he initially accepted without objection. But in his later years, he felt a deep responsibility to have his experience fully acknowledged, not for his own sake, but to ensure that future generations would never forget the horrors he had witnessed. Although a 2016 documentary uncovered 165 people who had lived through both atomic blasts, Tsutomu Yamaguchi remains the only individual to be officially recognized by the Japanese government as a dual survivor. He applied for this status in January 2009, and 2 months later, in March, it was formally granted. In interviews later in life, when asked about his thoughts on the bombings, Yamaguchi responded with quiet conviction. One bomb would have been enough to send a message. I believe they were in a rush to prove their power to the world. He continued, it would have been one thing if they had used the bomb on a battlefield, but they knew it would kill women, children, infants. How could they justify that? Today, Tsutomu Yamaguchi is often referred to as the luckiest man in history, a man who beat overwhelming odds, twice. But perhaps a more accurate description would be the unluckiest lucky man. For though he survived, he bore witness to devastation and suffering that few could ever truly comprehend. His story stands as a sobering reminder of humanity's capacity for destruction and a call to never allow such tragedies to happen again. If you found Tsutomu Yamaguchi's incredible story as moving and important as we did, don't forget to leave a like, share this video to help others learn about this forgotten piece of history, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful true stories from around the world.